Hello, Yellows, and welcome to another TNC Oppo preview. It's that time of the week yet again. Last time out, and God, this gets me going. I feel so good saying this. We have won 2 games in a row. I'm absolutely buzzing about that. Of course, we beat Southampton at Carrow Road, an epic win, Dino's debut, and of course, Craigie Shakespeare on the touchline as well for that one. Up next, it's time to see whether we've got what it takes to make it 3. I can't believe I'm saying this. Sounds ridiculous. I feel like a bit of a dream. 3 wins in a row. This time, we are up against high-flying Wolves again at home. And who better to give us all of the Wolves insight than, of course, huge Wolves fan and founder of Talking Wolves, Dave Azzopardi. Dave, thank you so much for coming on, matey. Really appreciate it. What's the mood like at the Molineux at the moment?
Oh, thank you for having me on, firstly. And it's good. It's positive. I mean, like you said, we're doing well on paper at the moment in the league. We're in a good position. Massive win, which I'm sure we'll touch on shortly, last weekend. But yeah, we're looking good. I think we're 6th in the table. And, you could look at it 2 ways. The games that we've dropped points in this season, we should have arguably done better in those games as well. First 3 games of the season, we had Leicester, Spurs, United, probably were better than all 3 of them and came away with absolutely nothing. Lost to Brentford, who you would say beforehand we should have probably got something against. Leeds, we dropped points, conceded a last-minute penalty. So a couple of those games, if they went a different way, who knows? We could be, top 4 or top 5, So these next couple of weeks for us are quite crucial. We've got yourselves and we've got Burnley. But then going into December, we've got the likes of Liverpool, City, Arsenal, United. So it's a really tough month. So for Wolves at the moment, it's about trying to get as many points as we can over the next few weeks. But overall, things are looking good. I saw a stat that it's our best ever start to a Premier League season. So under a new manager, things are looking good so far.
Oh, you had to get that stat in there, didn't
Sorry.
you? Come on, you're meant to be building my confidence up, not battering it down. And I want to talk about that game that you highlighted. A really impressive win because it was against West Ham, who, of course, one of the informed and arguably most impressive sides in the league so far this season. And you seem to have controlled the game well and beat them 1-0. What have you taken from that game from a Wolves point of view, and what have you learned from that one, bringing it into this Saturday against Norwich City at Carrow Road, Dave?
Well, it was a really, really good win, actually, and a lot more comfortable than I expected. Sort of this time last week, I was in sort of a position where going into it, I had a little bit of confidence. Then I spoke to a West Ham fan on a preview similar to this, and he was, waxing lyrical about them. I thought, oh no, this isn't going to end well, is it? But yeah, we were really, really good. There's been some games this season where you expect Wolves to really go at it. Like I said earlier, Leicester, United and Spurs, we really attacked all 3 of them and played really exciting football. And I think Bruno Lage is still adapting to the Premier League. And you can sort of see that because I think he looks at those 3 games thinking, right, we've attacked and played really good football, but why haven't we won games? Maybe we just have to sit back a little bit. And that's what he did. We were winning games, beating Watford and so on. Beat Watford 2-0. It was arguably one of our worst performances of the season. So there have been games this season where we've sort of taken our foot off the gas a little bit. And you're just like, as a fan, you're like, nah, this is rubbish. And, we've dropped points because of it, like in the game against Leeds. But against West Ham at home, in front of the home fans, again, it looked like he put his foot on the gas again. Played really attacking, really encouraging football. First 15, 20 minutes, we allowed West Ham to have a lot of the ball. But once we sort of sussed out their shape, it was all Wolves, I'd say, up until the final moments of the game where we were sort of defending it. So really, really happy with that performance. Lots of the ball going forward, had lots of chances. And it was a really impressive performance, like you say, against the team that have, for the last 2 seasons been really, really good.
I'm smiling lots, Dave, because the fact that you've just come out with this statement, we won 2-0 and it was one of our worst performances of the season, mate. I could dream of having a 2-0 win right now. I really could, and I'm just grinning because of the difference. It's I'm jealous of that. Dave, honestly, and try and take your Wolverhampton headphones off for a minute and just think about this carefully. Can Norwich actually hurt Wolves at Carrow Road? Like, is there a weak spot in this Wolves side that we can expose?
I would say so. I think in this division, anybody can beat anybody, and you guys would have seen it the last time you were in the division, and we've seen it already this season. I think the game against Brentford, we all expected at Molineux as well. We all expected Brentford to turn up and us have the time of pick up another win, and it wasn't the case. So look, I'm not going to come on here and say, oh, now Wolves are perfect and you ain't going to beat us, because it's not going to happen. And we've had tough games against you guys previously. But yeah, I think it really depends on how Bruno Lage sets up and goes for this game. If he goes into this game thinking, right, we're away from home, we're going to be really cautious, I think that's when Norwich could cause us some problems. When we sit deep and don't take control of the game, that's when we aren't going to score goals. The only time we score goals is when we're on the front foot, when we're attacking, and have lots of the ball. So I think it's one of those. In terms of actual positions and areas, we're pretty solid, I'd say, throughout the pitch. But it's just one of those, with what mentality we go into that game. Are we going to go at Norwich, looking at them and thinking, right, they're quite fragile, maybe we could go at them a little bit? Or are we going to sit back thinking, right, Dean Smith, new manager, maybe we've got to be a bit cautious because we don't know what to expect? It's really down to how the manager sets us up, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be fascinating to see how that game sort of rolls out in due course on Saturday, because there is this unpredictability about Norwich City now, of course, under a new manager. I think it would have been, it would have definitely been an easier game under Daniel Farke for Wolves. I think he would have picked us apart quite easily. But I think now it's going to be a really interesting dynamic. I also think the in-game changes will be a fascinating one as well, Dave, for sure. And Dave, what's the ambition for Wolves now, and how is life after Nuno left? It must be really weird still for you seeing him in a Wolves legend in another dugout.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really strange. I think it was sort of, January of this year. We lost to West Brom, who, were our fierce rivals. Last time we played them was years ago in the Premier League. They beat us 5-1. That was under McCarthy, and he got the boot after that. And they beat us earlier this season, and again at a time they were down towards the bottom of the table. We were sort of milling around mid-table, and we were just not expecting them to beat us. Even my dogs agree with that. That we were not expecting them to beat us, and we were dreadful. And Nuno just seemed like he wasn't bothered about that game at all, and the sort of mood around Wolves fans started to change. It was very, on social media, very 50-50. A lot of 50% of the fans wanted him to go. A lot of the fans are saying, look at the last couple of years, what he's done for us. And I think, unfortunately for Nuno, he set himself such high standards, as a poor season was going to get him in a bit of trouble. He came into the club, got us promoted straight away, 2 7th place finishes, a quarter-final finish in the Europa League. He set himself such a high standard. And the last season, with the injury of Raul Jimenez, and we just didn't have a backup striker. So unfortunately for Nuno, it wasn't great. He tried to implement a new tactic halfway through the season, which didn't really make any sense. So yeah, it was difficult for him, and I was really surprised when I saw the news before the end of the season that he was going to be going. Again, a lot of fans, even the fans that wanted him to go, were upset about the news, because I think they just didn't really expect it. And then Bruno Lage's name was literally the first name that came out, and it looked and sounded like it was going to be him all the time. If I'm honest, he wasn't my number one choice at the time. There were other managers out there. I even did a video on it on our channel about it. That were managers like, Gerrard and a couple of other Portuguese managers, Fonseca, who seems to be linked with every English job at the moment as well. But in the end, Lage came, and you look at his record. I think the reason I didn't want him was because he was very inexperienced. But you do look at the only club, the first team he's managed is Benfica, and his record there was unbelievable. I know they're a big club. I know they're a team you expect to attack, but his record was almost flawless. But he's come in, and although there have been times this season that have been a little bit questionable, a couple of decisions here and there. There's a tweet that some people still drag up from when we played Villa. We were 2-0 down after 65, 70 minutes, and he hadn't made a single change. And I tweeted about that, and we went on to win. We went on to win the game 3-2.
Trust me, mate, I get things wrong. I'm never going to live down the fact that I went on Sky Sports News and went all in on Frank Lampard's Norwich City. Yeah. So don't worry about that. It's interesting that you should speak about Nuno in that way, Dave, actually, because Daniel Farke came unstuck, and with a similar vibe, I feel, because it was almost because he'd had so much success in the Championship and just steamrolled the league on 2 occasions, it was almost like that expectancy of we know what you can do, and therefore if you're starting to chop and change and get poor results in the Premier, it almost hurts you in that way, which is quite interesting. Dave, fill me in on Wolves. I really want to know who are the informed players, or what is the informed player going into this one?
I think Jimenez has now grown into the season. Obviously, he had that horrible injury last season. There's actually a really good documentary on the BBC iPlayer about that, if any Norwich fans are interested as well. But yeah, he's come back in, and a little bit cautious because he'd been a player that, for us was our main man, really, for the first 2 years in the Premier League. Even the season he got injured, I think he had 4 or 5 goals in 10 games before he got injured, which was a great record. So we were worried coming into this season. Was it going to be the same Raul Jimenez? And it was a slow start, but he's really, found his pace again, I think. West Ham, great finish from him, but just caused them problems all throughout the game. In certain games, Newcastle would beat 2-0. And although he didn't score the goal, he got both assists for Hwang, who's another player as well. Yeah. So Jimenez finally is starting to find his feet. And I think he's caused Norwich a few headaches over the last few times we've played during the Premier League as well. Fingers crossed he can do it again. But yeah, Jimenez and Hwang as well. He's one of those players. There's a lot of rumours about him at the moment that teams like Liverpool and City are looking at him as well. But I said it on our channel last week. He's one of those players that sort of comes in and out of games. I thought he's really good against West Ham, but there's been some games where I thought he's the worst player on the pitch. But then there's other games where, in and around the area, he's going to put the ball in the back of the net. So I think, again, it's just one of those games with Hwang. If he can turn up, you've got Jimenez and Hwang. It's almost like Jimenez and Jota of old. Those two have found a really good connection and a good link. But Jimenez definitely the one to keep your eye out for.
I was going to ask you about Jimenez, but to be fair, you've completely filled me in on him, and he's one from an opposition point of view. I look at him and I think you need to shut him up. You need to man mark him. You need to manage him. If you give him that space and time, if you give him an ounce of space, he will finish. And he's my big worry going to this. Dave, I want to kind of zoom out now, actually, and I want to ask you about just Wolves as a club in general, because over the years as a Norwich City supporter, I remember playing Wolves very much. It was a Championship fixture, Norwich versus Wolves. And I want to ask you, how does it feel now you're rolling in it? And I know you're not rolling in it as much as, the elite of the elite, but, the contrast in finances from where you were to where you are now. How have your fans adjusted to that? And what is it like just kind of getting served up with players that are like 30 million, 40 million pound players? Is it still strange, or are you used to it now?
Well, it's weird because you say about the money. The last, I would say, bar our first transfer window in the Premier League, all the transfer windows for us have been very underwhelming. But I'll explain that in a second. But yeah, when we got first bought by Fosun, the first transfer window, They spent a good amount of money. I mean, I'll say that, I think we broke our transfer record 2 or 3 times that season because we'd signed the likes of Helder Costa, who came in on loan, and then we signed him permanently. Cavaleiro had come in. So there were a few players then, and obviously a huge Portuguese influx at the time. Yeah. Brought in Walter Zenga, which was disastrous, didn't work. And then brought in Paul Lambert, who sort of did what he needed to do. I mean, you guys know Paul Lambert, but I think he was I think long term, he didn't really want to be at the club with George Mendes having such a strong influence on things as well. And I think he made that clear to Fosun. And probably a similar situation to what we've just spoke about with Nuno and Farke, in the fact that Paul Lambert, he might do us a job, and he's done okay this season. But if we want to go anywhere, he ain't the man to take us forward. So obviously we got rid of him and then brought Nuno in, who at the time not a lot of fans knew about, but had just managed Porto. And if you were in the Championship now and said, right, the Porto manager wants to join you, you're probably going to say, yeah, sound. And then that's the season they really splashed the cast. Neves had come in.
Yes.
Who else? Some big players, and Jota had come in on loan as well. Willy Bolly. So we walked the Championship. Then that's when the first transfer window in the Premier League, Patricio, Moutinho, Jimenez started to bring in the top players. But since then, yes, money has been spent, but not the right players and not the right areas. for argument's sake, I think the following summer, Catrone had come in. 16 million quid we spent on him, and he's been dreadful. He's been out on loan to various clubs. I think Valencia, Empoli, Fiorentina. It's just not working with him. Vallejo, who's coming from Real Madrid on loan, thinking happy days. Real Madrid defender, absolutely dreadful. So we haven't had a good window. Even last summer, Fabio Silva, who I adore Fabio Silva, but 35 million quid is still a lot of people questioning that move. And I've still got my fingers crossed that Fabio can hit the ground running over the next couple of years and we can see why we've spent that money. But at the moment, I just don't know what's going on. But I think with him being the understudy to Jimenez, I don't think he's ever going to get in ahead of Jimenez short term. I don't know, but they're talking about a loan move. But is that going to kill his confidence? Is that going to kill his value? For him, it's such a difficult position to be in. But there's money there. But at the moment, this summer especially, the club we're talking about being self-sustainable, i.e. selling players to buy players.
Yeah.
So it's one of those at the moment as Wolves fans. Yeah. It's we've got value in the squad, but I don't think we've got sellable assets that players that you wouldn't want to sell. I think the only one that maybe could go in January that's going to give us some funds is Adama Traore.
Of course.
But even then, they wanted 80 million for him 2 years ago, and now I would be surprised if they rejected 30 million pounds for him.
So, baby or boys.
Yeah, that's 10 million. That's 10 million of the fee there.
Yeah. What a player he is, though. I have to say, what an absolute player he is. And it's really interesting to hear about that regarding money. You do need some perspective, though, Dave, because we haven't got a pot to piss in at Norwich. Yeah. Well, let's start to talk about this game coming up on Saturday now, Dave. What does this mean for Wolves? I know you've already mentioned the fact that you've got these are important games for you, your next 2 or 3, because then in December it's really bad in terms of you've got Liverpool, City, etc. Thank God we've got those done and out the way at the start of our season. If you win this game and Arsenal lose, you got to 5th, right? And then things start to kind of get a bit serious about your season, right?
Yeah. Somebody told me off yesterday because at the start of our October-November running, because they were all teams, I would say, bar West Ham, they're all teams below top 6.
Yeah.
So I said, really, I'm not expecting us to win all of them because, football doesn't work that way, but we should have a really good run in. And someone said, just don't say the next few games are winnable because you'll jinx it. But it's hard, to be fair, it's hard not to. No disrespect to Norwich and no disrespect to Burnley. I'd be disappointed if we didn't get anything out of either of those games. But we have to win those 2. And then, like I said, we've got the likes of Liverpool. We've got the likes of City. We've got Chelsea as well, who I didn't mention earlier.
Yeah.
But if we can get ourselves 5th or 6th going into that month, then we've still got games like Watford, like Brighton in there as well, and can pick up those. I think it's crucial for our January transfer window, really, because if you can go into the January window 7th or 6th or 7th or even 8th in the league, but you're maybe 2 or 3 points behind the top 6 and show this to a player. For argument's sake, we were strongly linked with Renato Sanchez, and sort of you can maybe ignore what I was talking about with money, but we linked with Renato Sanchez and say, look, we're top 6. He's probably thinking, all right, Sam, let's join the party.
Do you think you played?
Yeah, it's difficult.
But Dave, do you think you played better against the better teams? Because from an outsider looking in on Wolves, when I see Wolves on the telly or I occasionally see Wolves highlights, it's because you've beaten a big boy or you've put in a great performance against them. So do you almost see this game against Norwich as maybe a bit of a banana skin?
It'd be typical Wolves for it to be a banana skin. But like I said earlier, I think any team in this division can beat anyone, and that's why I very rarely want to go into a game thinking, right, we're gonna smash Norwich, we're gonna smash Burnley, we'll be absolutely fine, because it's not gonna happen. But I would want us to get at least something out of these 2 games. If someone said to me now, look, we're going to offer you 4 points from Norwich and Burnley, I'd probably say, reluctantly, I'd say, all right, sound. But I know Wolves are capable of better. But they're huge games because we've got a tough December. These 2 are huge games.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. I want to ask you about your raw, honest, and probably brutal opinions on Norwich City Football Club, Dave. From a Wolves fan's perspective, what do you make of our chances staying in the league now we've got Dino in charge?
See, when I was surprised at the sacking of is it Fark? Thomas Fark or Fark? Yeah, Fark. I was surprised at the sacking of him, and mainly due to the timing of it. As an outsider, I'm sure you can sort of understand that, especially after you guys had won. And I just looked at that job and thinking, whoever gets this job is more than likely, and this is me being honest, is more than likely going to have a relegation on their CV.
Oh, no
that.
way. Right. Interview
No.
over.
but again, with Dean Smith, I just looked at him as a manager. I've never been 100% convinced with him, but when you actually look at what he's done at every club he's been at, he's left him in a very good position. I looked at him and thinking, I'm not sure if any other Premier League team would have taken him as their manager. And again, that might sound really harsh on Norwich and really harsh on Dean Smith. I thought Lampard, I would have been very surprised to see him go, especially with what sort of the rumours that came out with him during the summer. But I don't know. I mean, let me have a quick look at the Premier League table now, because like you say, you got 2 wins on the bounce. Let me have a look, see whereabouts you are now. So you're not even bottom of the Newcastle haven't even won a game. You're not even bottom of the table.
Come on,
Mate,
on. Is it possible?
Get a couple of Dean Smith signings in January. And it could be a good season for you. No, genuinely, it's still tight. It's not like, I think those 2 wins have been massive for you. If you can pick up a few more wins
exactly.
before Christmas.
We'll beat you at the weekend, so there's a good start.
Yeah.
So. Dave, I always ask this question to everyone that comes on as an opposition fan. If you had to sign one Norwich player for Wolves right now, who would it be and why?
Ooh. So I'm just looking through your squad. There's a couple of names that pop up straight away. And the 2 are, and this might just be me being, well, I don't know. Max Aarons is one. But I haven't really heard much hype about him over the last 12 months or so, like we used to a couple of years ago. So I don't know how he's progressed. If I'm honest, I've not seen a huge amount of him, but I know he's always been quite highly rated. So I like Max Aarons, and could probably offer Nelson Semedo some good competition. And Rashika as well was somebody we were linked with quite strongly. Again, since he's moved to the Premier League, I'm not seeing a huge amount of him. But he was a player that I seemed to like the look of his numbers and so on when he was in Germany. So he'd probably be another one as well.
It's so interesting, Dave, because we always get Todd, we get Max, now and then we get Timu, but we've never had Mila Rashica. And it's really interesting because you're very right to reference those numbers in Germany. And now he's starting to pick up some form. He's only played one game under Dean Smith, but he looked really good in that game, really good. Mm-hmm. So really interesting to see how he progressed, and interesting that you were in for him at one time as well. Dave, just kind of almost getting to the crescendo of this conversation now, I want to talk about the last time we played each other at Carrow Road, not the last time we played Colony. Let's not go there on that 3-0 loss, because that was absolutely diabolical. We played at Carrow Road. It was 2-1 to Wolves. We went in front. Todd Cantwell got that goal early on, and then you came back from behind to win. What do you remember of that game, not the 3-0?
That was off the top of my head. Was it close to Christmas? I think it was one of the last games before Christmas, 21st maybe December. Off the top of my head.
It was before the whole closed doors thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think it was ranked, because I remember I think I had a ticket for that game, and I thought Saturday afternoon, do I do the trek to Norwich? But in the end, something had come up. I actually had something that I needed to do. So during the day, I did what I needed to do, came home and watched the game. And I mean, we had a couple of good comeback wins that season. That was one of them as well. And I think at the time we were on a pretty decent run of form. And I think that season overall, I think the lockdown sort of killed us, because we were on such strong form. I think we were 1 or 2 points outside the top 4.
Dave, I'm sorry. The lockdown killed you. If the lockdown killed you, we were brutally murdered 5 times over.
I know. No, but I mean, because we were 1 or 2 points outside the top 4 going into the lockdown, and then we chucked that away. And but yeah, like I said, we had a couple of good comeback wins. I can't vividly remember the game, but a good win and typical Wolves away game. Say's grabbing a goal. He's not scored for a while, so maybe we can see him pop up with one on Saturday, and obviously the main man Jimenez as well.
Oh God, I really blooming hope not. Head to head, Dave, over the years, and I didn't realise this, but you guys are quite some distance in front. I'm not sure if you ever look at that sort of stat when you're going up against teams. I quite look at that because it's almost like, do you have a bogey team, etc.
Yeah.
I didn't really realise this, but you guys are miles out in front of us in terms of games won. We've won 13 games against you. You've won 32 games, and we've won 16. Exactly. I didn't really realise that you were that much of a bogey team for us. So, crunch time now, and we do things a little bit differently here on Talk Norwich City.
Yeah.
What is your score prediction? But what is your head saying, and what is your heart saying? And be nice, because if not, you won't be on the channel ever again.
I will be nice. My heart is saying 2-0 Wolves. My head is saying a 2-1.
To Norwich.
No, Wolves. But honestly, I would not. I think you guys. I don't know. We've even done okay away from home, but
like yourself,
maybe a 1-1 as well.
You're a bit shaky on that.
Being kind, yeah. Probably.
You're a bit yeah. You're not. You're so confident. You're just trying to hide it. You're at what you.
I don't like these sort of games because especially with a new manager now, Norwich, you just don't really know what to expect. So you guys could come and really shock us, especially with your home fans there. So I'm a little bit cautious, but we should have enough to beat you boys. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Okay, well, my head is saying a Desmond 2-2.
Yeah.
That's what my head is saying. I think there'll be goals. I think it will be chaotic, just like it was in the first half for the Norwich fans that were there against Southampton. I think Wolves will go at us. And I think we've now got the ability to come back from behind as well. So I think it's going to be an exciting game. This is where it's a crap 0-0. But my heart is saying that this is going to be 3 wins on the bounce. And I'm going to go 2-1 to the mighty Yellows. Dave, mate, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us tonight. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, man. Really, really enjoyed it. And I appreciate you having me on the channel. It's been a long time coming. It's been a channel that I've kept my eye on for a long time. So really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate that, pal. And thank you so much to everyone that's watched. If you've enjoyed this video, if you're watching on YouTube, do give this a massive thumbs up. Drop a comment down in the comment section. Let us know if you're furious with Dave's score prediction or not. And do go and check out Dave as a party and at Talking Wolves on Twitter as well. Do give those boys a follow. Thank you so much for watching another episode of the TNC Opposition Preview. And fingers crossed, the next time I speak to you, lovely lot, will be after 3 wins on the bounce. Surely not. On the Bull City.